If you're hiring a new team member for the first time, it can be really exciting because it's an opportunity to delegate some of the things that have been overwhelming you or taking your time and energy and attention away from the things that only you can do in your business. Or if you're hiring a new team member, it can be an opportunity to relieve overwhelm for someone else on your team, or to bring in an entirely new skill set that you haven't had on your team yet. But I've been working on teams for the past 25 years, and let's be real, the actual hiring process itself can feel pretty daunting, let alone time consuming, right? There's a lot of assets that you need to create: job descriptions, applications, interview agendas. And then there's the time actually reviewing the applications and conducting the interviews and trying to make the best possible decision. And so the last thing you want to do when you've gone through that time-intensive process of hiring is to potentially not have that team member stay on your team. And one of the most helpful things that you can do to ensure that your team members stay on the team is to have a smooth and clear onboarding process. Now, you don't just need to take my word for this. I have statistics, so I'm going to share a few stats with you. SHRM, which is a membership association for human resources professionals, found that about 7 in 10 employees are more likely to stay 3 years or more after a positive onboarding experience, and that effective onboarding can improve employee retention and productivity by 52 and 60% respectively. And so there's not just the time cost of hiring that we talked about, right? There's also an actual monetary cost. And the cost of hiring a new employee typically is around $4,000. So if you consider all of this evidence, it's very clear that having an onboarding process that's going to help you retain your team members is not something to take lightly. But a lot of people still don't have really strong onboarding processes. So in today's video, we're going to walk step by step through the same onboarding process that I use to help my clients hire in their businesses. I'm going to share a little bit about the software and the platforms that I use to manage this process. And I'm even going to share a team onboarding checklist template so that you can easily take everything that you learned here and implement it the next time you hire. So in this video, you're going to hear me talk about 2 different terminologies. The first is onboarding. And to me, that's kind of like the initial and logistical steps that we follow to bring someone on the team. You'll hear some operations and hiring professionals refer to this as the pre-boarding. And then the second terminology is integration. And the reason why I prefer to use the word integration is because really the best way for you to set your team member up for success is not just all of these logistical steps to make sure that they have what they need to do the job. It really is to integrate them into the business, into your business mission as a part of the team culture and into their role. So we're going to walk step by step through the onboarding phase and then the integration phase. And then I'm going to share that checklist with you. The first step before you even actually start the onboarding process is to send an offer letter letting them know that you're inviting them onto the team, outlining their compensation, their start date, and letting them know how to accept the offer. And then once they've accepted, that's when the onboarding phase begins. Now, the onboarding process itself consists of 7 steps. The first is to set up the onboarding and integration tracking for that particular team member. This is so that the steps of this process are captured somewhere so that you, if you're the person that's doing the onboarding or you have another team member that's helping, can track that all of the steps are being completed and that things are progressing as part of your process. Now, the good news is you don't actually need to create that yourself because I have a completely free checklist for you in the description below this video. So go ahead and snag that. You're going to plug this checklist into a project management software. Now, my project management software of choice is Asana, but you can use something like ClickUp or Monday, or some people will just use a Google Doc or Notion or Trello. The most important thing is that it's somewhere where whoever the person that is tracking the progress has access and can organize it. Now, you might be thinking, we just started and this already sounds really complicated, but trust me, once you download that checklist and plug it into your project management software or Google Doc or whatever you're going to use, it makes it so quick and easy to follow. You don't remember what was already done or what you have to do next. It's all laid out for you to follow. Now, step number 2 is to put a contract in place. So you want to make sure when you're working with remote contractors that you always have a written and signed contract in place. Now, I've worked with a lot of startups in the coaching industry, and this is one step that a lot of people skip over. Either they don't have an agreement template to use, or they don't want to pay for one, or they just believe in the good old handshake method. But I can tell you from running my own business and also from helping other clients run their businesses that a contract is something that you don't think you need until you actually need it. It doesn't just provide legal protection to you and the contractor, it also creates a point of clarity for both sides of the relationship. And it's a document you can always refer back to if there's ever a lack of clarity in the future about what you both agreed upon as part of this relationship. So I strongly urge you not to skip this step. There's a ton of legal resources like LegalZoom where you can purchase lower cost. Now, the third step is if you're working with a contractor or consultant, some people may require a partial or a full upfront payment for working with them, or they may be due a payment from your company based on your company's current pay schedule. And so you'll want to make sure that if that needs to be part of the process, that any invoices get executed and paid before work begins, if that's part of your agreement. Now that the contract has been signed and the invoice has been paid, ahead of sending out the welcome email, you're going to want to prepare what you're including in the email, as well as a scheduling link for them to schedule their orientation call, which I'm going to go into a little more depth on what happens on that call in a few minutes here. But in the welcome email, you're going to want to reiterate their start date, what they can expect in terms of accounts that need to be set up as part of their role of the business. And for this, I'm referring to like software accounts and password manager permissions and things like that. And then you're also going to want to include that link to schedule their orientation call. And then once that welcome email is sent, I like to do a team welcome in whatever platform that our team communicates in. So for instance, on most of the teams that I'm on, we're inside of the Slack app. So I'll go into the general channel and do an announcement there, invite everyone to join me in welcoming our new team member. And so I know I'm sharing a lot of information here, and my goal was to provide a lot of value in this video, and I have more to go through still. So if you want a more concise version of everything that we're going through on this video, I want you to go into the description and click to download my free team onboarding checklist template. And after you submit that, there's also going to be an offer for you to grab my onboarding packet. And that's going to include an offer letter template, that welcome email template, an integration roadmap, a micro onboarding checklist, which is going to give you a much more detailed version of everything that we're going through on this video, and some agenda templates as well for the meetings that are going to be involved as part of the onboarding and integration process. So it's pretty much everything you need to successfully onboard and integrate your team member for the first 30 days on your team. All right, so for me, here's where the onboarding phase ends and the integration phase begins. And you may be asking, okay, when does the integration phase like officially begin? And that is with their orientation call. Now, the orientation call is to orient your new team member to the business, to the team, and to their role. So I urge you not to rush this. Make sure that you create enough time and space in your schedule to accommodate this call so that you can really go into enough detail with your new team member so they really have everything that they need to hit the ground running. I'm actually going to retract that statement because I don't like that terminology and I find myself using it a lot. Hit the ground running. Expecting your team member to hit the ground running is not the best approach to integrating your team members seamlessly into your team and business. I've had this happen to me as someone who's being onboarded and integrated into a team, and I've experienced clients do it to other team members. And a lot of times a client is just so relieved to have someone to delegate stuff to that's been overwhelming them, or someone on their team left abruptly and there's this big gaping hole on their team that they need to fill. And so a lot of times when they hire a new team member, they simply fire hose them. And this is probably one of the worst things you can do to a new team member. Remember we talked about those stats on like retaining team members? Fire hosing new team members is going to work against that. The more time and space you allow your new team member to train up into their role without expecting them to take on everything right out of the gate, the better understanding they're going to have about the nuances of your business, the better they're going to be able to fulfill their role. And I can almost guarantee you the more satisfied they're going to be, because people like to do a good job. They want to show up at their best. And it's really hard for them to do that if they're thrown everything immediately and pile tasks and responsibilities on tasks and responsibilities without being given the opportunity to really ground and integrate their training and knowledge. So in my opinion, the more time you invest in their initial training in the first 30, 60, and 90 days of their time on your team, the less time you're going to have to spend down the line, either fixing mistakes, managing dissatisfaction on the team, or potentially losing that team member and having to go through that rehiring process again. So again, on that orientation call, we're going to acclimate them to the business, to the team, and to their role. And so when you're acclimating them to the team, you're going to take them through your business model, your business mission, and share with them the vision and the strategy for your business. Then you're going to walk them through the team structure and expectations of team and expectation of the leadership of the business. This is where they're going to learn who they're going to for what, and then you'll go through the role itself in more detail. Making sure that you come up with a structure that honors their capacity as well as your needs on the team. And then you're going to close the orientation call by setting up the training schedule and assigning some homework. Now, what does the training schedule look like? I typically recommend setting up daily training sessions for the first week to 2 weeks of a person's integration onto your team. But it really depends on their role, how involved it is, and how skilled or capable they already are in terms of that role's responsibilities. So for instance, if you're hiring a customer service person, you might book a 1-hour training session the first time, go through and review how to access the inbox, how the inbox is set up, what types of inquiries they can expect, where to access the SOPs, and go through a few live examples with them on how you like customer support inquiries fielded. Then their homework might be to review all the inquiries that are currently in the inbox, do their best to locate the relevant SOPs, and then choose maybe 3 inquiries they feel comfortable drafting responses for. Then on the next training call, perhaps that's a 45-minute call, and you're going through the drafts they created and you're answering any questions that came up for them. And as your training schedule continues, those sessions will get shorter and shorter until they feel more confident and are more autonomous in their role. And now the next step in the integration process is to schedule regular check-ins. Now, a lot of times people assume no news is good news. If your team member isn't asking questions, if they're not complaining about something, well, that means everything is all good, right? That is not always accurate. The fact is, even the most skilled team members, especially if they're resourceful kind of people, which is what you want, they can have a hard time asking for help, right? They try to figure things out on their own. If they're not fully integrated, this can waste a lot of time and cause a lot of frustration, right? Or oftentimes they're trying to prove themselves, so they're just trying to make do on their own or not rock the boat. So scheduling regular check-ins, maybe that's every 2 weeks. Maybe that's at 2 weeks, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, quarterly, depending on how long now they've been on the team and how well integrated you feel that they are, really is a helpful way to keep the door open and give them a voice to share with you what's working and not working for them. So you can address those things and make sure that they're set up for success. It's not only going to help them, it's going to help the business. And I highly recommend, finally then, on their 90-day check-in, to actually ask about feedback on the onboarding and integration process. This is such a helpful and easy way to improve this process from someone who's literally just gone through it. So they can share their experience of what it was like for them. You can document that and then make iterations on your process so that you can improve it for the next team member. This is continually going to improve your employee retention and satisfaction. All right, there you have it. We've just gone step by step through an onboarding process for your remote team members. I shared a ton of information here that I hope you found valuable. And if you want the distilled version and a really neat checklist, go to the description of this video, download that completely for free. And there's also an opportunity to grab an entire onboarding packet that you can customize to your onboarding and integration process. It's going to save you a ton of time, and it's going to be really impressive to your new team member.